More than 100 years ago, W.E.B. Du Bois went door to door interviewing black households. He sat in the parlors, kitchens, and living rooms of 2,500 families, listening to their stories about life in Philadelphia's 7th Ward. Commissioned by the University of Pennsylvania to conduct a study on the problem of the Negro, he moved to the ward and completed research captured in his classic book, The Philadelphia Negro. His study was the first to connect the social problems plaguing residents within the ward to the larger systematic issues of segregation and discrimination, rather than the failures of the people themselves. What would Du Bois discover if he walked the streets of the 7th Ward today or spoke with residents about the same social issues he studied a century ago? These are Philadelphia residents sharing their perspectives on education, employment, housing, and race relations.
What comes to mind is my childhood days in Virginia, where we had full course segregation. We had the black and white fountains, and if you wanted a sandwich in a white restaurant, you went to the back door and back window and you got it and paid for it that way, and you had to eat it wherever you could. We went to all black schools.
Schools in our neighborhoods, the elementary schools were all taught by black teachers.
I try to tell the kids in my class, go to school and learn as much as you can because they're still going to give the Caucasian kids the advantage. If 3 people black come for an interview and 3 people white come for an interview, who do you think will get the job?
Just like I said, back in my day, it looked like it was, a waste of time sitting in school, because the few fellows that did go to college, they were working, doing the same work I was doing. I was better off than they were for not going.
One of the main things we stress is education. You've got to have that education. If you don't get anything else, get a strong education and have a purpose.
Growing up in the 8th grade, I was the only black. Like the class coming behind me, there were 2. The class behind that, there were 2. I'm from an all-white neighborhood, all white growing up. So we didn't know about black history. We didn't know anything about it. My children taught me black history.
One of the good things about the Southern School was that we did get a lot of teaching in black history, much more so than those who lived at North and often went to white schools where they didn't get any,
Black historic schools teach you a pride. It's not taught in a book. It's just seeped into you. And so you went to school every day and you knew how to behave. You knew what to do.
One of my friends said that he went to an advertising agency to tell them that he would like to do illustrations for some of the magazines and newspapers. And the Caucasian owner told him, yeah, we'll hire you, but you have to work at night. And listen, by the way, would you mind mopping the floor every now and then?
Well, the Italians, they could just talk to John or Joe or Russo or somebody like that and move forward. For African Americans, we had every type of test thrown up in front of us. And it's like anything else. The persons that were making the decision, every so often let a black get through.
I worked for an engineering company at 311 Walnut Street. I guess they hired me as the token colored guy to come there and work. And after they hired me, then they hired 2 or 3 other African American and 1 Filipino fella. And things started to open up a little bit.
I was a government employee for the Defense Department. Raised my family with a job there, and it went well. Just had to put up with racism, that's all. Which is no different than I put up with before. I still do.
In the want ad, is to tell you what race of person how you want to hire. especially within the private family. There's a lot of times they tell you whether it's white or black or light colored or something like that. They have in the paper, you know.
And then when I went in the Army, was initially in North Carolina. Again, that we were in the same kind of situation where the separation was very, very clear.
The white soldiers didn't mix with the black soldiers. They didn't think that we should be soldiers. It was a segregated army.
As an officer, I had the privilege of having white soldiers under my command, you know. But again, it was very obvious. They were white and we were black. So when we left the base or went somewhere else in the South, it was always the case of they go one way and we go another.
Do you know in Alabama they fed the German prisoners of war because they were white before they would let the black soldiers eat?
I'm in the same house for 48 years. They did not want to sell the house to me because I was black. I mean, he point blank told me the family that was here did not want to sell to you because of racism. They said the house next door is up for sale also. If that's also a black person, then the owner is willing to sell it to you. They used to call it block breaking. And as I said, they would call around. You better have to sell your house. Niggers are moving in. We were called niggers in that day too. Niggers are moving in. The whites were moving out the area, the black people were moving in. There was a time when oil and gas went through the roof. And those white people who moved out of the area realized the houses they were in were not constructed well. The oil bill, the gas bills are driving them crazy. And so they realized, let's move back in the city. The houses are constructed better, they control the heat better, and water and so on, and the taxes are lower. So they started moving back into the city.
Since I've been here, there's been a complete change in this particular neighborhood where we live. It's just inundated with white people. You don't realize there's that many white people in the neighborhood. Whereas when I first came here, this was an entirely black neighborhood.
So what happened during that period of time is the realtors would stop putting up signs. They were selling houses without you knowing the house was up for sale.
Jesus said, to whom much is given, of that person much is expected is one translation, required is another translation.
I think the first job of all churches, black or white, is to save souls.
To be good citizens, good neighbors, to love each other, be involved in things in the community.
Education, employment, property, savings, those are the issues. And our churches, I don't feel, are addressing them.
The role was of black, strong women and men given leadership and being mentors to the children, spiritually and emotionally.
Dr. Kirkland used to say, if you don't learn how to walk these raggedy streets, don't even worry about getting on the streets of gold. And our churches have to teach us not only how to walk these raggedy streets, but how to improve the streets.
We made tremendous strides over the years, and I think that's bearing fruit as we speak. I think that with the victory of Barack Obama, for example, in Iowa, testifies to the progress that we've made.
I could not believe it, that actually they have voted for a black man. I never thought I'd see that day. It's so much different than when I was a kid. But I'm 76, so it's been a long time since I was a kid. But things have really changed.
A lot has to do with the civil rights movement with Dr. King and the sit-ins and all that.
Integration is, as I've seen it, has been a slow process.
My husband said we got what we asked for, but we lost what we had. The fellowship among the blacks, we lost.
We were caught sleeping. And I say, when we're sleeping, they're scheming. A little bit of integration came. And we sat back and did nothing. We did not plan. And we just sat back and we thought what little we had was fine.
While you would like to think that we're treated as equals, there's still a very obvious evidence that we are not always treated as equals.
We often wonder what would have happened, how would the world have been different had the benevolent despot that Du Bois spoke about really existed. How would the world be different had the benevolent despot taken aside these black boys and black girls and taught them and trained them and worked to incorporate them into the system? How would the world have been different? It may be that the ghetto as we know it would not exist. I won't say that the ghetto would be eliminated, but it would be a very different place had the benevolent despot actually taken a hands-on approach and worked to incorporate black boys and black girls into the system.
These oral histories attest to the humanity of all people. They illuminate the achievements of Philadelphians who forged a better life for themselves in the face of many challenges. They point to some of the ways that racism has been reshaped, reinvented, and reinforced in the last 50 years. The issues Du Bois outlined continue to persist, and the best way to resolve them is still not clear. Yet, it is only by seeing the connections between a community's past and present and attempting to mitigate the circumstances of its birth that we can assure that the color line will not be the problem of future generations.